I'm going to start things off with the man of the hour, Rob Breaux from the Gamblin Gauchos podcast. Rob, thanks for hopping on today, man.
Hey, how you doing, boys?
Fantastic.
Why does he get to be the man of the hour?
Well, you're the man of every hour. He's the man
fair.
of that 1 hour that we have right now.
Oh.
That's him.
Well, but he won't be here the whole show.
No, but okay,
He's
the man of 15. I don't know. What
There
do
we
you
go.
want from me?
No, that's
what
fine.
do you want from
the
Rob?
man of a quarter hour. That's
Okay, the man of the quarter hour. How about that? That works. That works for you. Oh my goodness, Rob. First and foremost, you guys cover Texas Tech. Great social media presence that you guys have. I was just curious when you heard the news that Arizona State was going to be one of those Pac-12 schools that was going to be hopping over and joining the Big 12 starting in 2024. Just what your initial perception of that was.
Man, 2 years ago, when Texas and Oklahoma first left the Big 12, I thought, hey, let's go get the four corner schools. Like Arizona State, that's the prize. Colorado, Utah. Then you kind of get to know the Utah people, and it's like, okay, maybe not Utah, but four corner schools and somebody else. And then obviously you didn't go that way, but I feel like we're 2 years down the road, and that's kind of what I thought was going to happen initially with the bonus of BYU and Houston and UCF and Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned one of those four corner schools. My co-host Anthony really likes one of them in Colorado. He's obsessed with just what the program is doing. Big fan of Deion Sanders. What do you guys think that Colorado is bringing? Obviously, from a football perspective, it may not be much yet, but just from a pure, eyes on TV.
Yeah, I mean, the Denver area, I guess, but you don't really own it because the Broncos are there. And I'm a big TV markets don't matter in college football anymore. It's brand recognition. And I think they have some brand recognition. And I think Deion Sanders is a lot of part of that. Initially, how long will he stay? If he's successful, he won't stay long because he'll go off to another position. But they'll be able to get a new guy in there. So I think if you're a Big 12 fan, you want Deion to be successful to raise the status of the program. But yeah, I think it's another great road trip. I did watch you guys' road trip list, so we don't have to talk about that if y'all don't want to.
No, we will. We will.
Okay, all right.
Goodness.
Oh,
my goodness.
But I do think Colorado's a good ad, and I appreciated that they were first, that they started the dominoes, and I think they'll be looked after all that. You also get the Big 8 rivalries back with Iowa State and Kansas, and there's some history there. You have the Big 12 rivalries as well, even though I hated Colorado when they were in the Big 12 because they beat Texas Tech in 2007, and it was like their worst team ever and one of our better teams. So,
I mean, obviously, you guys are really engulfed in everything that is Texas Tech, specifically as it relates to football. So for any Arizona State fans, or I guess just any fan of a program now joining the Big 12, what do they need to know about the current state of Texas Tech?
The run defense has gotten better since Kalen Ballage. You have a new head coach in Joey McGuire. He's been recruiting well. He's a Texas high school coach, so you kind of have that feel for the program right now. Not in a negative way, but it is kind of run like a high school program, so you have a lot of family and culture and effort, that kind of stuff that you talk about. They're the hardest working, toughest, most competitive team in the country, he likes to say. So that's the brand right now. But you've been known as an offensive school for so long, and you still have Zach Kitley, who was at Western Kentucky with Bailey Zappi when he set all those records. But defensively, I think Texas Tech is getting an identity as well with Tim DeRuyter, and you're kind of focused more on running the ball and playing defense and all those kind of old school football things that Texas Tech fans have been waiting for. And now you still want to score 40 or 50 and have a 50 burger every once in a while, but Texas Tech fans were so long used to scoring 50 and losing. It'll be nice to maybe score 50 and hold the opponent to, 30. Of course, the new Big 12 is not quite what it was in the middle of the 2000s.
Well, speaking of the Big 12 as a whole, just for ASU fans that really don't know much, and clearly we don't know much, looking back at the road trip list, but could you just give some ASU fans maybe a cheat sheet on some schools, some things that you need to know if you're a Big 12 fan?
Well, you know what's crazy is by the time ASU is here, we're going to have 8 new schools and 8 old schools.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a brand new experience for everybody. I have been to several Big 12 cities. I've never been to Stillwater. I don't want to go to Stillwater. Morgantown is a beautiful place. Fort Worth has a rich history. They're where the West begins. They're in Fort Worth, and you get the DFW market as well there in Fort Worth. But the Big 12 is so much more about stadium experience and game experience, and you're not going to a college town for vacation. You're not going to go to Ames in September just for like the wine country, right? It's about going to the game. It's about experiencing the game. It's about Jack Trice Stadium. It's about walking the pedestrian bridge. Everything that Iowa State is proud of. It's about drinking 32 beers over the weekend, and they're all Ames appropriated now. And I think they have a vodka now too. So,
yeah.
It's about the experience of the city. They're college towns. You're adding Orlando too, but that's kind of the one big city you're just going to experience the city instead of going to experience the college vibes, right? Because Lubbock, nobody's coming to Lubbock on vacation. I understand that. But to experience the game day atmosphere, I think is a lot more appropriate in the Big 12 than maybe some other conferences.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to Lubbock on vacation, Shane.
So I mean, let's hop into it. We talked about a lot about geography. Totri and I broke down our road trips very differently. I was looking at it as more of a experience as a whole, not just because I'm not flying into the football stadium and sleeping there.
No shit.
Like so I was that's the way I was going about it.
Sure.
Let's talk about. I know the tradition, and I know what how serious and much different the fan base is at Texas Tech than it is in Arizona State. But just kind of sell me on Lubbock as a whole. Like not even the game day experience. Let's talk about like a weekend there. If they're playing on Saturday, what am I doing on Friday night?
Okay, you're gonna laugh, but Lubbock has one of the richest wine countries in the world.
Let's go.
Listen, Google it.
I believe it.
West Texas is one of the richest wine countries in the world. Richest is in they have a lot of wineries here locally. You can do some wine tastings. They have a few restaurants now. Like in the last 10 years, you're much different in Lubbock than it was 10 years ago. Okay, you've had some growth. You've had some rich cultural growth, I think, in Lubbock. So if you're experiencing Lubbock from like 2012 and your buddy's talking about it and it's like that was the shithole or whatever, it's not quite that anymore. You have some nice restaurants, the Nicolette. You have the Cotton Court Hotel. If you want to come down, it's a really nice hotel. You can stay in a few others, but it's not like we have just a bunch of Super 8s and La Quintas. Like you have some nice hotels as well with the Cotton Court, I already said. The arts and music in Lubbock are much better than they were 10 years ago. If you want to come down for a nice Texas country show, go to the Blue Light. I could say more, but I think Lubbock gets a really bad rap, especially if you Google Lubbock. It'll come up from 10 years ago, the most boring city in the world. I think you probably mentioned that on the show, but it is a much, much richer history than it was even 10 years ago. You go to the Buddy Holly Museum.
So you got to cut Lubbock some slack.
Hey, when I Googled it, I didn't Google any articles or anything. I just saw a picture. And I threw it up there.
Sure. And I'm not gonna debate that Lubbock is a flat, dry, dusty oasis, okay? But you can drive 3 hours in any direction and it's only Lubbock. Like we're isolated. If you're here, you like it. If you're somewhere else, you probably don't. But
can I propose something?
We're very proud.
Oh God.
Can I propose something to the city of Lubbock? Change the name. Change the name. I think that has you're saying it leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Okay, what are you
Lubbock?
What are you changing it to?
I don't know. It's harsh. It feels like
Lubbock. Harsher than Stillwater?
Well, Stillwater just like
Sounds
Stillwater's
gross.
like descriptive. I'm just talking about the phonetic pronunciation of the word Lubbock. I don't know.
Rob, you got any ideas?
You're giving it an ick at the end.
Yeah.
Which I think it's Lubbock.
Okay.
Lubbock.
See, there we go. That's fine.
Yeah. So you've just been saying it wrong the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got the ick in there, which I think is a bad thing. But Lubbock, yeah.
Huh. The more you know.
The more you know.
See, I do want to get back on track in terms of just like the conference realignment discussion, because this is obviously something that Big 12 fans are used to with Texas, Oklahoma. The Pac-12 was used to with USC and then UCLA, and then it kind of slowed down before the domino fell with Colorado. Just what are your thoughts in the way that college athletics is kind of moving toward eventually what's probably going to be two major conferences at some point?
Yeah, I don't like that direction. Obviously, I like the new Big 12, but I want everything to stop. I don't want the ACC to be pillaged. If it makes sense mathematically here to have 4 major conferences. I liked the Power 5. I wasn't one of those guys that was wishing death on the Pac-12 as much as the Pac-12 was just not doing anything, in my opinion, right? You guys know. You were sitting there watching it. So if the ACC is going to be proactive, I don't know about adding what were they calling it? Stalford? Cal and Stanford?
Yeah, Stalford.
That would be awesome.
And then SMU, which SMU is trying to go for free.
Yeah.
I just want it to all stop. I like the ACC where it is. I like the Big 12 where it is. I like the Big 10 where it is now. I like the SEC where it is. I think 4 conferences make sense. Obviously, self-preservation if I'm a Big 12 fan. I don't want to go the way of the Pac-12 here, but I think as long as these 4 conferences are proactive and work together, then I do understand that. But if you do go to 2 conferences and the money is all the same, like, does ESPN want to do that?
Yeah.
Does ESPN want to cancel what they're doing in the ACC, paying teams $30 million, and the Big 12 when they're paying teams $30 million when they could pay everybody 60, everybody 70, 80? I just don't think that makes sense long term.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with the 4 conferences, I mean, the one area that's kind of being left out of this that hits closer to home than most is the West Coast.
Yeah.
There's just isn't a West Coast conference, and that's being completely threatened right now. And that's why I propose.
Oh, God.
What am I going to propose? College football Pangea. Give me just everything, squish it together, and we're getting closer to that. I'm sure it'll be something of that nature here soon.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that's what it comes to. But as you said, we don't know what the TV rights deals are going to look like, and we've talked about this a ton. But just the money factor and where there is no prime ruler of a 1, 2, 3 conference. Everyone's going to want their hand in the cookie jar. So it is a hard thing to come to terms with.
Yeah.
What's even funnier is if you do go to 2 conferences and everyone comes together, you're just going to have the Big 10 West, which is the Pac-12.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to go back to exactly where we were.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Glenn in the chat asking, who do you think is the biggest threat to win in football from the old Pac? Who do you think is going to win?
Like early, Utah. And then when the head coach retires, anyone else.
Can't wait for Whittingham to go somewhere else.
I like how Arizona's recruiting. Long term, I don't know how that affects. I don't think Arizona is going to be competitive in football in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Arizona State has had some success, but I feel like early on, Utah would be the threat to win early, even though I think Utah is going to be a little bit awakened as they come in, but I think they'll be fine early. If I had to pick one of the 4.
Are you putting any stock into Colorado at all winning games in the Big 12?
No.
I don't know. I would like to see their final year in the Pac-12. I think this is going to be one of the best Pac-12 football years of all time. I'm really excited for this year of Pac-12. Obviously, you get everybody playing each other for the last time, pretty much, except for the teams going to the same conferences. So you got some good crossover there. And there's just a bunch of good players and teams. And it doesn't feel like the Pac-12's been – if the Pac-12 was like this 5 years ago, would they have broken up? Because the Pac-12 went through a pretty rough stretch where a lot of teams were bad. But it doesn't feel that way this year.
Yeah, it feels like the sexiest conference in terms of quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, they just have the most up end talent. And it's funny too. The Pac-12 championship is like, obviously you want to win it every year, but this year feels like it's the most desirable one.
Yeah.
Getting the last of anything is great. The last, cookie at a table, fantastic. The last Pac-12 championship, give me it. And the team that might win the Pac-12 championship might be the one that gets left behind in Oregon State as well.
Oregon State. Gosh. It's definitely going to be an exciting season, I think, just in terms of college football in general. And maybe this is just me, like at every point when we hit early August, it's just like you're itching. I'm tired of baseball at this point. I'm tired of watching reruns. Like I need some college football, and I think we're getting it. And you brought it up. There is just so many great final games that I think you are going to get in the Pac-12. And then I think moving forward too, look at some of these schedules, even in Arizona State in week 2, they've got Oklahoma State. I think that's something that fans of both sides can really look forward to down the line, because it's obviously not going to be the start of a rivalry, but I think this is a chance for fans and really these programs to start getting accustomed to seeing each other.
Yeah. Well, one final question for you. What is your most desirable destination to travel to out of the new 8 teams that are coming into the Big
12? So that's a good question. I like Denver. I would go to Boulder. That would be one of my top ones, especially the new coming in. I don't care to go to Disney. I don't think Orlando would be high on my list. As far as just pure football, I like to go to Provo.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a fun atmosphere. Don't really care to go to Salt Lake City, but I hear that's pretty cool too. And then obviously the Arizona schools. I'm a big Arizona guy. People don't like the heat, but I would prefer the heat to the cold. So give me a nice November, crisp November evening there in Arizona.
Absolutely. Rob, thank you so much again for hopping on. Everybody can follow them over at Gamblin Gauchos on social media. Rob, obviously you guys are going to be the first ones we call when we see Arizona State versus Texas Tech in the future, man.
Absolutely. Come on down to Lubbock.
Nice. I will. I promise. I will, and I will give a different review.
Okay. All right.
Oh, man. Have a good one, Rob.